Today we pick up where we left off. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam. Whether you got a charming smile or a sharp mind, I'm here to help you with everything. Sam, where were you all summer? The answer is very simple. I work in education. Summer holiday means I get 2 months off. I spent the entire month of July doing incredibly fun stuff with my family, and in August I had duties to perform within the family, which really kept me from recording because priorities do matter. But don't worry, I'm back. And yes, you might wonder, why the hell are you still talking about old rogues today? Because that's what we're talking about. We're continuing the rogue subclasses when the new rules are right around the corner. I don't want to finish like the Rogue series halfway through, so that's still 2 episodes I'm going to put out, and then I will have a very thorough look with you at the new D&D rules, the classes, what has changed, and especially what you have to keep an eye out for, because I've already been reading through, and there's a lot of like subtle changes as well, which are usually good. But you need to be aware of those. But anyway, for today, if I can put my right page open again, because I've somehow made my text disappear. For today, we are talking about rogues. A few of my favorite rogue subclasses are passing by today, namely the Swashbuckler and the Soulknife, and we'll be having a look at the old thief as well, because now there's a new thief. This one is called the Thief Legacy. It makes me feel even older than I already felt. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. But we start with the Soulknife, a wonderful bit of rogue that deviates from the usual set of tricks by being a psionic. So yes, you remember near the end of normal D&D, namely with Tasha's, if I'm not mistaken, they released a few subclasses that were linked to psionic powers. So anything to do with psychics, telekinesis, stuff like that. And the Soulknife, I think, worked out really well. It's a fun class to play, fun subclass to play. I think I liked it even more in Unearthed Arcana before it released, because it had a bit of a fluctuating dice system, and I'm a sucker for those. But the end result is really good. So what do you get? The usual levels still apply, of course, for rogue subclass features, but very first off you get a wellspring of psionic power. A bunch of d6s equal to twice your proficiency modifier, and that is not too bad. That means near the end of the game you'll have like 12 of those, if I'm not mistaken, and that's good because you'll have one ability near the end that is actually pretty expensive. But most of your abilities use one of these psionic dice, which is quite okay. They start out as d6s, but they will upgrade relatively quickly at 5th level to d8s, and then 11th level to d10s, and 17th levels to d12. All of your subclass powers, I think almost all of them, use these psionic dice, so that's good stuff. They only reset on a long rest rather, but you do have one bonus action that you can use to regain one psionic die once per short rest. So that's okay, because you've got a decent wellspring of these things once you gain a few levels and your proficiency bonus is a bit up, and you can regain one every short rest. I think personally 2 would have been better, or like use the bonus action twice to regain those short rest dice, because in a long day I think it might be a bit tight. Then again, most D&D 5e games don't really run that resource management game. They have medium length days that should not too often land you in problems. And if it does, if you don't have your stuff anymore, you're still a rogue with sneak attack and a lot of skill. So I mean, you're never bad. Now, what can you do with these dice starting from level 3? First off, you have Psi Bolstered Knack, which means if you fail a skill roll, an ability check, important, an ability check, that difference, using a skill or tool, so that's why I was confused, you can roll one of your psychic dice and add the result, potentially turning failure into success. And what is really cool, you only actually expend the die if you succeed. So if you're like 5 short and your die comes up on a 3, you do not lose the resource. And that's really cool, because that way you can just try pretty hard to succeed at a lot of skills without possibly spell. Either you succeed and it's huzzah, or you fail and you don't really care, like you still failed a skill throw. Nothing changed, so that's good. And then there's Psychic Whispers. You can establish telepathic communications with a number of creatures up to your proficiency bonus, and it lasts for an amount of hours equal to what you roll on the die. So this scales with your die, that's really cool. And you don't need to have a common language with a creature to talk. So that's really cool. If you encounter something that you don't understand, you can spook them really hard by talking in their mind, but they can understand you, you can understand them. They will not ask any questions why the spooky stabby guy is inside their head. But it's a good feature, and it's a good non-combat feature. The first time, this one is free actually. The Whisper one, the telepathic one. But if you want to use it again, you have to use a psionic die. So that's good. So that means that the first time you activate the power, you do roll a die, but you don't expend it. You have to roll it to see how long the power lasts, but you don't expend the die. And then later on, if you want to reactivate, you do roll and the die is gone for that day. That's cool already, isn't it? I mean, you're level 3 and you have 2 abilities, of which one doesn't immediately use the die and the other one only uses it when you succeed, even though you have 4 of these in a day. So that is pretty good actually. But my favorite feature, well, I don't know, one of my favorite features of the class is the Psychic Blade stuff. These guys are like Psylocke in the X-Men. She can as well, but these guys can manifest Psychic Blades in their hands, and they are super fun. It's basically when you attack, so you don't even have to be carrying these things. When you attack, you can basically really clench your fist and suddenly have a Psychic Knife going for the jugular of the other guy. It's obviously a finesse weapon because you're a rogue and you want to sneak attack. It's a thrown weapon as well, so this is a really good throwing weapon actually. And it does psychic damage, d6 plus your usual ability modifier for attack, so that's good. The blade disappears when it hits, and it doesn't leave any mark. Ugh, lord, the possibilities. So you can manifest knives wherever. If there's a situation where you have to go in unarmed like a big fancy gala, nobody cares. You make psychic butter knives. If you stab someone with these things, you assault their brain and leave no mark on their body if they die. This is a really good assassin actually. Leaving no mark is pretty well done. And you can like mess with them telepathically. You have a wonderful package. Now, how does the throwing? It has a normal range of 60 feet, so that's pretty decent as well. 60 feet, 5-inch squares on the usual battle grid means 12 squares of range. That is a proper range for a free throwing weapon that you have an infinite supply of. And there's no long range though, so it's not 60 and then 120 with disadvantage. That does not work that way. And to top that all off, if you have an open hand, so obviously you have an open hand to manifest your first weapon, but if your second hand is also open, which does tend to happen for rogues, you can manifest a second blade as a bonus action on the same turn and do another attack with it, but it's a d4 instead of a d6. But you do get your ability bonus damage because this is not a 2-weapon fighting action. You know, that regular dual wielding, if you don't have the feet to support it, or the fighting style rather, you don't get your dexterity buff in this case on your offhand weapon. But since this is tied to the Psychic Blades feature and is rules as written and rules as is intended, by the way, not an offhand attack, well, it clearly is, you get the full damage. So this feature, this level 3 feature, makes your character proficient in dual fighting with instantly appearing, disappearing, throwable knives without any disadvantage. And that is downright amazing. You can do anything. Now, obviously, after this wonderful kit of level 3 abilities, because these are free again, you don't need to spend anything. As I said, most abilities interact with spending your abilities, but I was clearly lying because we've got 3 and only 1 really does it at this point. These are free. You can do this as much as you want. You don't need daggers. Daggers are for losers and rogues who are not competent in the mind game. When we get to level 9, the next bump for the rogue, you upgrade these buggers with Hone Strikes and with Psychic Teleportation. Psychic Teleportation is very easy You manifest one of your blades as a bonus action. You throw it a number of squares equal to 10 times your roll, and that is the maximum. You can choose to let it be lower. Like if you roll a 6, it's 60 feet it's going to be. But if you say I only need 30 feet, you can take 30 feet. Basically, you can teleport as far as the roll in 10 feet. And there you go, it's an instant teleport. Obviously, this does expend one of your die, but this is a short to, well, at the end, proper combat teleport that only costs you a bonus action. That obviously will mean that you're not attacking with your second blade that turn, but holy damn, the mobility, people. You're just poofing around. Now you're Psylocke and Nightcrawler. Basically, this guy is half the X-Men already, and it's going to get even better. And again, you throw the blade, you teleport to the blade disappears. Never any trace of the Soulknife doing their thing. The other one, Homing Strike, basically says that when you miss, it's the same as with the Psybolstered Knack actually. If you miss, you can add a die to possibly hit. If you hit, you expend the die. If you miss, you don't. Again, mwah, ability perfection. That it only eats your resources when you hit. So this means once you have like a larger die, like a D10, and you're short by quite a lot, you can be desperate and just throw the D10 to see whether or not you hit. I mean, if you hit, huzzah, you've landed an impossible hit and have fed extra damage to whatever you're killing. If you miss, you didn't spend anything. It doesn't cost any additional actions or any resources at that point. Amazing. Psychic Veil at level 13, pretty straightforward. You spend a die to become invisible with anything you're wearing for an hour. This is not tied to what you roll. You do just... Actually, you don't spend a die the first time, again, haha. So you just become invisible for 1 hour with everything you're wearing until the usual conditions apply. You need to make a saving throw, you attack, stuff like that, then... no, you make something do a saving throw or you attack. It's like the basic invisibility spell. If you want to do this again within the same long rest, then you have to spend the die and you don't roll it to get any advantage. It's always set to 1 hour of invisibility, which at level 13 might sound kind of meh, which, I mean... It is. Invisibility is what, like a level 2 spell or something? But still, I mean, it's a free invisibility that you can repeat. You have a pretty solid supply of dice to work with. This is not bad. You're already the king of sneaking about and markless assassination, and now you can get in and out invisible. I mean, it's a cherry on top. It's not bad. It's a bit outscaled, in my opinion, by this level, but it's good. It's really good. It's fun. I don't see the problem. And then level 17, this is where you can spam your psychic die. Rend Mind. Basically, when you use your psychic blades to deal sneak attack damage, which should be pretty often considering you can throw, you can stab them, you can teleport. There is really no reason not to be in sneak attack range with these guys. You can force a wisdom save, which will be based on your proficiency and your dex modifier and the usual DC. Your dex should be like 18 or 20 by this point, so it will be the highest possible DC. If it succeeds, you stun the bugger for a full minute. What the actual schnoodles is this? You stun something for a full minute, which is a bit like Stunning Strike for a monk. But they do get a saving throw at the end of the turns. Well, the Stunning Strike obviously only stuns for a turn for the monk. Sam, you idiot. But yeah, this stuns for a turn, but they do get to repeat the saving throw at the end of the turn. Each of their turns, obviously. And when they have a success, they break free. You can only do this once per long rest, which sounds reasonable unless you spend 3 psionic dice to use it again. If I'm not mistaken, the max proficiency bonus is 6, which gives you 12 of these guys. 12 of these dice, rather. So you can use this guy, the Rend Mind, at least twice a day. I mean, the free one and then an extra one with the dice sounds really feasible. A minute of stunning if they don't save is woof. If it's a low wisdom creature or you have other ways of manipulating their wisdom save, this just turns something into a free-for-all. This is why boss monsters still have legendary resist, of course. And that is the Soulknife. Without a doubt, to me, one of the best rogue classes. You get a proper amount of combat abilities with blades on their own, and the fact that you can turn a miss into a hit, you can stun things. and a decent, and you can teleport, and a decent amount of out of combat utility. You can teleport, you can turn invisible, you can make ability checks succeed where they should fail. This is a really good pack. Maybe not the most diverse package. It does a few things really well, but it's so good. I love it. I love the flavor. I love what it does. It's so simple. Then we move on to the other subclass that I really like, the Swashbuckler. Who doesn't like Swashbucklers? This is your piratey based guys. This is the charming pirate flying in on a rope. Haha, ho, chuck, 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 and buggering off again when he's done. It's perfect, nice little class with a lot of mobility without being overly magical. Because obviously the previous one, quite magical. Well, I know it's psionic, but it's still going to be considered a magical class by the peasants around it. This one is just, the charming, dashing, beguiling rogue played to the max. And that also means that this guy is going to like having some extra charisma around, because one of his abilities relies on it, and you really want to play that dashing rogue, then bloody hell, pump up the charisma and be the party face as well. Be gone, paladins and sorcerers, I'm taking over. What do you got? Fancy footwork at level 3 means if you attack something in melee range, so archers bugger off, that something cannot land opportunity attacks against you for the rest of your turn. And I said when you attack, not when you hit. So you attack, haha, oh, you missed, time to run away. Or attack, you hit, the thing's pissed at you now, time to run away. So this is really fun. Actually adds more mobility in combat than you might think, as long as you're not swarmed by enemies. Obviously, if there's 2 enemies, the other one can still hit you, but if it's one-on-one, this allows you to dash and dart through the battlefield with relative ease, landing yourself where you need to be without expending any real resources. Your resource is smacking something, which you should be doing anyway. A Rakish Audacity has fun. That's the other level 3 abilities, has a double feature. We love double features. First off, your initiative bonus is buffed by your charisma modifier. There it is, the reason to pump up that charisma along with that dexterity. I think this is one of the subclasses that does really well the initiative can because of that. If you want to go even wilder, play a Harengon, they get an additional initiative buff. There's a feat, I forgot which one is it, alert, that gives another one. This is one of the subclasses that can get a decadently high initiative modifier, which is good. You can run in and kill something. You also get an additional way to use sneak attack. If you're stabbing something in the wild or whatever, and there's no other creature standing within 5 feet of you other than your target, you can use sneak attack. The other guy can have, like, if this is you, this is the bad guy, there can be a buddy for the bad guy behind him. As long as that's not like this turned to you and then you're standing next to 2 guys. That doesn't work. But if they're in a row or it's just one guy, you can run up, sneak attack the bejeebus out of them, and then run off again, because fancy footwork allows you to do so. And since you can dash as a bonus action as well as a rogue, if I'm not mistaken, this really is the dart in, stab and bugger off again move that I explained at the beginning. They do this perfectly. Add the needed panache to it and you'll be fine. And I did use the word panache on purpose because that is the next word. The next ability. This might be the only magic-ish thing they have. They can mysteriously make people like them or hate them. I think this is just a really good insult or compliment. You make a persuasion check, charisma. You're pumping up the charisma anyway to get that initiative bonus against insight. Creature has to hear you, doi, because you're talking. Creature has to understand you. Makes sense because you're trying to beguile them somewhat. If it succeeds and the creature is hostile towards you, they will have disadvantage if they attack something else that's not you. So basically you're taunting. This is cool. This is a non-tank class with a crowd control feature. Can they take a lot of hits? Well, once your dexterity is high enough, your armor class is acceptable. And you have some defensive abilities as well from the rogue table. So that should be okay. But still, draw some fire towards yourself. Protect the squishies, which is you. But they also cannot do opportunity attacks on any of your buddies. And that's cool because you're granting freedom of movement to other people. If this is a boss, I mean, they won't use legendary. I wouldn't use legendary resistance on this all the time. There's like auto irresistible dance floating out there that can completely immobilize your boss. So you might not be using legendary resistance on the Swashbuckler Rogue's panache ability. But then all of a sudden, your big bad guy can't do opportunity attacks anymore on other people. And obviously, you, as the Swashbuckler Rogue, run in, slap him, you've landed a melee attack, and can walk out again. And they can't do opportunity attacks against you either. So this ability, when it succeeds, neutralizes an enemy's ability to do opportunity attacks completely, which can be really fun, really good as well if it's something big with a lot of reach, stuff like that. So it's not a bad ability. If the creature wasn't hostile, if it's friendly, it's charmed by a minute and for a minute and think through the most friendly acquaintance it has ever made. So it's good against friend and foe. That is really fun. Level 13, Elegant Maneuver. Less cherry on top. If you compare this to the Soulknife's I Can Disappear button, this is not a cherry on top. This is a cherry. Some lying somewhere. It's not horrible, but it's more niche. You can use the bonus action to gain advantage on any acrobatics or athletics checks you make during the same turn. This will come in handy when exploring, of course. It's not bound to any type of resource. It's okay. It fits the team. You're flying about doing stuff, so being good at it fits the team. But for level 13 ability, it's a bit lackluster. Even if it's always meant to be the non-combat one, but still, it's a bit lackluster. And then Master Duelist. Very simple. If you miss an attack, you can reroll it again with advantage. Which is good because that means even if you don't have sneak attack, not from the usual things, or not from your rakish audacity feature, but you miss, you can reroll it and the advantage will grant you sneak attack. You can only use this once per short or long rest. It's okay. It's strong. I mean, it's one attack per... You're the rogue. You don't have extra attack, remember? So you only have one attack per turn. If combat lasts 5 turns, this means you can reroll 20% of your attacks if you're in the neighborhood of a short rest or whatever. It's not amazing. There's capstones out there that are a lot better or more flexible, but at least landing your sneak attack damage is super important for a rogue because it's everything you do in combat. So it gives you a fighting chance at what you're supposed to be good at. And that is nice. That is good. The Swashbuckler is less strong than the Soulknife. The Soulknife is a more recent class and they tend to be stronger anyway. But it's a really fun class. It bursts with flavor. It can be such a fun concept to play. It's really good at multi-classing as well. Rogues always are, but I've played a fighter like a Battlemaster fighter swashbuckler rogue, and that went together really well. I had a lot of things to do on the battlefield, a lot of mobility, battlefield control, because some of the fighter subclasses like that a bit. Battlemaster doesn't, but hey, I got more. It's versatile, it's easy to combine, it does its job good. So this is like a solid, I don't know, 7 or 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10, let's say, where the Soulknife is probably a 9 among rogues. Oh well, it's good at it and it's really fun to play. What else do you want? And then last but not least, we talk about one of the original subclasses for the rogue in 5th edition, and that is the thief. The thief in my head is like the rogue, you know, the nimble scoundrel who picks your pockets and breaks into houses, does the reconnaissance work, is half Spider-Man, half other ninja guy. They've not aged too well. I mean, their abilities were never super strong to begin with. They were decent. They offered a lot of mobility and what have you. Weren't very combat oriented, except for one really good feature, where a lot depended on the DM, to be honest. But they're still fun to play. They're a quintessential reconnaissance, urban prowler rogue, and they really still do deserve a good playthrough with them because they're just fun, and mobility and flexibility will come in handy in the right setting. First off, you have fast hands at level 3. You're a thief, you have fast hands. That means that you can use cunning action, the weird bonus action rogues get to do like a plethora of things in combat as a bonus action, to make sleight of hand checks. So you can pick locks and disarmed traps in combat. That's niche because that doesn't happen that often, but you also get to use an object action as a bonus action, and that is a lot more important. I've made a build with this before, like the medic rogue, because this means you can use any item as a bonus action in combat, and that is really strong. That means quaffing down potions, feeding other people potions, using medkits, using any other item really that you have that requires to be used in combat, you can now use as a bonus action. And most of the time, all of those things are balanced about being an action. So you get it at half the cost, so to speak, and can combine it with an attack. And depending on what the Dungeon Master hands out or what you get your hands on as a filthy thief, this will have a great effect in combat. Simple as that. Second story work, climbing doesn't cost you any extra movement, and if you make a running jump, I think, yeah, running jump, you jump farther. You add your dexterity modifier to the jump, which is good. Dexterity is your main ability score. You jump farther for all the times that it matters, because the druid can't change into a bird, or the wizard can't make you fly, or, you know, this is good in solo reconnaissance, but jump distances are rarely an issue, so this is yeah, and the climbing can be cool in the right situation, but it's really not the best. But I know it's a level 3 freebie, you don't really lose anything. Supreme Sneak, now this can have a use, though it limits you a bit. If you haven't moved at level 9 more than half your speed, you have advantage on your stealth check. Obviously, rogues can use hide as a bonus action, so this makes it really easy for you to hide in combat to land a sneak attack next turn. You can attack, kind of sneak away a bit, hide behind the nearby box, and have advantage in doing so, and that would be pretty cool. But also out of combat, you can always basically have advantage on your on your stealth roll. Obviously, Dungeon Master could say, yeah, you're moving slower to do so, you might not get somewhere in time, but still, who cares? If it's about hiding in the grass outside to wait and ambush someone, you have constant advantage on an already high stealth roll, which can be further enhanced by expertise and what have you. So this is a pretty easy way to get ludicrous high stealth numbers. 13. That's where the good stuff comes from, together with fast hands. Use magic device. Before the Artificer came out, there was not really any class that dabbled in the use of using magic items not according to the rules, except this guy. Use magic device basically means that you can use all magic items even if they're not intended to be used by you. So anything that says requires a wizard, bugger off, I'm a thief, I know how to use these. You've nicked so many magic items that you've learned to use all of them. This, combined with the fact that you use items as a bonus action, has some serious potential if you have like items that blast magic. There's a few I don't know, Ring of Fireball or whatever. If it beats, you know, there's items that copy large kaboomy spells. Using those as a bonus action is really profit, because other classes, usually by the time that they have reached, that they gain such an item, maybe they don't want to spend an action on using it, especially late game. Might not want to spend an action on casting Fireball because the wizard has better stuff. But you, the rogue, being able to Fireball and then run in and sneak attack, well, that's pretty damn amazing. It increases your damage output, but it works for anything. Any item that has uses that requires you to activate it mid-combat to cast something strong or use a strong effect, you do it for any item at half the speed. And that is what makes the thief good in combat, but it is overly reliant on what the Dungeon Master feeds you, obviously. But it's still fun, though. And Thief's Reflexes is really cool, and combined with any other subclass, it would probably be broken. So it's good that they gave it to the Thief, who really doesn't get that much of combat enhancements, as you see. The Thief gets a lot of out-of-combat stuff, so this is really good, even though it's all the way at level 17. You're really good at doing ambushes and you get 2 turns when combat starts. You what now? If you gave that to the Assassin, anything would be dead. But yeah, you get 2 turns in the first round of combat. You take the first one at your usual initiative and then subtract 10 to do your second turn. This is good. This is good. This is better than the Swashbuckler's thingamajig in my head. This is relevant every combat. This does not require a resource. Can't use it when you're surprised, though. If somebody catches you with your pants down, you're not getting 2 attacks. But this is extremely good. 2 turns means 2 bonus actions, 2 moves, 2 actions, like 2 full turns. That's 2 times blasting the magic item, 2 times sneak attack, 2 times moving. Yeah, that's a serious upgrade. Like, the Thief is lackluster all the way. Well, lackluster, again, dependent on what you get magic item-wise. It's good or lackluster, and there it becomes like a little Nova Bomb at the start of combat. So it's not bad. It's good. It can range from a 4 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10, or maybe even an 8, depending on what items the Dungeon Master drops for you. There we go. And that's all the thieves and rogues and swashbucklers. My tongue is gone, it's time to stop. That's all the rogues, thieves, soul knives, and swashbucklers I wanted to talk about today. I will return once more for rogues, and then I will start diving into the new rules, because who am I pretending that I'll be able to avoid those? They're going to be everywhere. I think most of them are an improvement. There's some reservations I have made, but I'll share those with you in 2 weeks in the Attic Dungeon.